removing ourselves from the equation, I think, after we get all in.
So you went from having a law practice,
I did.
right? Was there a pivotal moment? Was there something that happened? Was there what made you make that shift from private law practice into the work that you're doing now?
Well, I think I see how you dropped it when you said it's law practice. I mean, for a lot of
For law practice.
in terms of reputation alone, I did both for a long period of time. Dreams for Kids is 20 years old. And it's our 21st year this year. So I balanced both and then realized what I love the most. And when you truly do what you love, you'll never work another day the rest of your life. I think it's a Chinese proverb. But I just realized I also could create the greatest impact, put more of my energies in that so that something could be created for future generations. And quite frankly, if I didn't do that, if I didn't stop practicing law, then I would have only made a mark. And that would have faded with time.
Yeah.
Because
And out of curiosity, how old were you when you made that transition?
2 years ago.
You were 2 years ago?
Okay, important lesson.
You were 19.
Listen to the question. That was 49.
49. Okay, great. Anybody else? Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I had kind of a change in life experience. When I was 35, I went through a really tough divorce. And I've been a young, pretty successful stockbroker, not by today's standard, you know, with the hedge fund guys making, you know, and all that, but in the 80s, you know, and all that. And I was living in Corona del Mar and driving a BMW, and I'd go to Bora Bora or Positano or, you know, great vacation, then Laker tickets, had, you know, played a lot of tennis, you know, all this stuff. And then my wife left me, and it was during the early 90s economic downturn. And so we had some real estate holdings, stuff like that. Like we've seen, you know, today, all of a sudden, wow, the equity's gone and the debt. And by the time, you know, we paid her out a settlement, I had nothing to show for it. So I'm 35, and I had a lot of good times. I had this experience, but I had no net worth. I had, you know, the person I loved the most just sort of rejected me, and so I was really at a really low point. And so it was funny back. You don't hear them so much today, but there was I was driving to work one morning, and there was a Club Med commercial in the antidote to civilization. I'm like, dial 1-800 Club Med, and I got to the office and I dialed 1-800 Club Med. Where can you get me? You know, get me out of here. So I said Martinique, because Martinique sounded good. So it was like a Wednesday morning. So Friday I was at John Wayne Airport taking a flight down to Miami to go to Martinique, and I was hanging around the airport. And it was Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I sat on the beach in Martinique and read that. And, you know, so begin with the end in mind. And, you know, what do you want people to say about your funeral? And that, you know, at that point, you know, say, wow, he was a good time Charlie. He had a really hot wife for a while and, you know, had, you know, all this stuff. But, you know, really nothing to show for it. And so I started thinking, well, started writing notes. We moved a few years ago, and I found my notes with the sweat and sand and like, you know, whatever. Yeah, I wrote on the beach, but I pretty much lived it out and kind of just backed up and said, okay, what decisions I'm going to make to kind of change my life. And so, 7 Habits, I highly recommend it.
For me, I couldn't agree more about this whole ego thing. And God bless my wife of 10 years. I did marry a hot wife, and so I'm very fortunate. I tell her that all the time, like, honey, I love you for putting up with me and letting me chase my dreams, and there's many kids that are the benefactor of that. But I started this school that we just opened. I just came back from Ghana, and we have 48 preschoolers. And we opened the college up in this village in the middle of nowhere. And I started to do this with my professor. I got my master's down at Point Loma Nazarene University. I'm from San Diego, like I mentioned. And make a long story short, he said, I have a dream to build a school. And I said, well, let's go do it. And in all honesty, I thought, well, you know, I'm getting pretty successful here, I guess. And kind of look at me and let's go do this. And I say that because when I reflect on it, where I'm at today, I think there was a lot of selfishness to it. Like, hey, when you see this thing built, you're like, wow, Jason, good job, you know. Look at what you're doing. This is, man, you're doing great work. And there's that ego. I mean, don't we all want to be praised at some point sometimes? I mean, like your life matters. I wake up, I'm like, honey, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? But no, I really stop and reflect upon it. And I just looked in the mirror, just me and myself. I go, wow, there's some selfishness in here. So I started this project with it. I mean, I've never been to Ghana when I said yes to this, and I never built a school. So me with the business cap, we laid out a 3-phase strategy, you know, and I said, here we go. And it was in my second trip that we had completed the phase 2, and I'm about to go home. And this boy by the name of Justice walks up to me. We have this resource center. He says, Mr. Jason, I want to say something to you. I want to say thank you for giving me hope. Now, I think I'm a pretty tough guy. But I walked across that street and it bawled my eyes out. Because guess what? I was going home. And this little boy was staying in a small village. And this school, you ever been in a dark room and all you can see is the hall light and that just little beam of light comes out that could be the brightest light to you? Because I saw this project through a little boy's eyes. And I was just humbled. And I said, oh, I think I'm starting, you know, might I say, I think I'm starting to get this. So I'm being very transparent when I was somewhat ashamed to go, this is not about me at all. And so when I say that kind of passionate, what I feel is the difference between a mark and a legacy, I wake up every morning and I have to remind myself, no, this is not about you. You know, this is about something greater, to where I hope I'm trying to get to this point that I'm not remembered for it. I think that's the true mark of going, it was just someone that passed along and helped someone on the side of the road and he moved on. So that was mine. It's very, one of those rare moments in my life that's very distinct that motivates me.
But there was something, I mean, a little bit earlier when you, with your professor, you said, let's start
Yeah.
that first school?
Yeah.
Was that was kind of the beginning of it all for you, right?
Yeah, that was just, you know, he'd authored 14 books around this concept called The Human Factor in Leadership Effectiveness. He was my economics professor at the time, Dr. CIH2010BK2121. He's traveled the world and spoke about it. And it's about the idea about an institution's sole purpose to produce honest and compassionate leaders for change in his country. And I just thought, yes. And doing that is what he came up with, this thing called the Quadrant of Hope, which is centered around love, grace, forgiveness, and compassion. And so it was simply, why aren't you doing this? And I just said, let's go do it.
And I don't mean, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be annoying by asking this question
Sure.
over and over again. That's
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking, but how old were you at that, you were in grad school?
Yeah, that put me at 30.
30?
Yeah.
It's better 50.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel blessed. I mean, I'm definitely the young pup here. I mean, I'm not in academia and I don't have the life experience like many of you do here. I want my life, I want the moment that I have here, this might sound like I'm preaching, but I just want those moments to matter. So if it's a one-on-one moment, but whatever impact that I can place, I just, you know, I love business and